Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My sincere thanks to the organizers of Jeevaniya and also to the chairman for inviting me for this talk. I'll give a brief introduction about myself and also about little background in homeopathy before I give my thoughts on the policy related matters. Well, I am a homeopathic physician in practice for around 35, 36 years and also involved into research for last 25 years working in the area of new drug discovery in homeopathy. Homeopathy is a system of medicine which came from Germany and it is widely practiced in India and across the world. And it has around 1,500 registered medicines in various pharmacopoeias in the world. And there are said to be around 3,000 homeopathic medicines available in the market in different parts of the world. It means half of the medicines are regulated and other rest are not regulated medicines. Besides that, I must also say that most of the homeopathic medicines out of 1,500 were introduced to the profession in the almost 100 years ago. So in last 50 to 70 years, there are no major or hardly any major new homeopathic drugs introduced in the system. This is very important and I'll tell you why. No major drugs from India have been introduced systematically in homeopathy. Of course, the government of India, the division of CCRH, has introduced new drugs in homeopathy, which are partly available in the market and which have not undergone probably certain regulatory approvals as what the approval bodies are asking as on today. So all in all, since there are no regulations, there are no new drugs developed much in homeopathy. That's the reason there are no regulations in place. And as there are no regulations in place, the new drug discovery is not happening much in homeopathy. And that is a very serious matter for any science, medical science, or any system of any medicine. Having said that, I would highlight that last 20 years I've been working on especially a particular segment of new homeopathic drugs called nosors. Nosors are homeopathic medicines prepared from biological materials such as bacteria, virus, parasites, tissues, etc. So they may be compared in a way like vaccines. So both the homeopathic medicines and nosors and vaccines actually all are based on the principle of similia, the law of similars. However, the vaccines are prepared differently by the process of attenuation, and while the homeopathic medicines are prepared by the process of potentization. But these are two different ways of creating some medicines which could potentially modify the immune status in the body and bring some kind of immunization, so to say. Now, I must specifically say that these new drugs that we have been working on in last around 20 years, especially the nosors, based on all this nosor related work and especially the COVID nosor work, we have initiated a startup company called Biosimilia, especially to dedicate on new drug discovery research. And this startup was formed especially during the lockdown period of COVID, and we have developed a COVID nosor which has undergone various studies such as animal toxicity study as per the OECD guidelines, as well as it has undergone phase 1 study, phase 2 study, randomized placebo controlled trial on 2,233 high risk individuals at the Mumbai's BMC run quarantine facility. All in all, this nosor has shown very interesting outcome in terms of its prophylactic capability to an extent of 62% over placebo. And currently we have a large trial, phase 3 trial, which is on the verge of completion. Meanwhile, this drug has been supported by the Ministry of Ayush for a proper review by the Ministry of Ayush itself, as well as with the help of CDSCO, FDA, NIV, and other experts. After having said this, last almost 9 to 10 months have gone into the review process of the COVID nozole, and they have not been able to regulate this nozole only because of some lack of regulations in place for homeopathic medicines. See, in the absence of the specific regulations of new drugs for homeopathic medicine, now we are compelled to utilize the conventional guidelines for new drugs. So now we come to the point of NDCTR. So there is an NDCTR, new drug clinical trial regulation. Now these rules are made essentially for the conventional medicines, and they are kept based on the on keeping in mind especially the safety aspects of chemical based conventional medicines, and of course the efficacy. So now this NDCTR cannot be imposed on the new drug discovery for homeopathy, because homeopathy has a very different format. Homeopathic medicines are essentially prepared in a potentized form, which has highly diluted substances which retain no toxic material in certain potency after say 6C or above. So blind imposing of NDCTR for developing homeopathic drugs, as well as blind imposing of certain efficacy guidelines such as GCP guidelines for efficacy, are not exactly suitable to the homeopathy drug discovery. For the purpose of efficacy, the conventional guidelines are disease-specific efficacy. So GCP guidelines are suggestive of examining a medicinal substance for its efficacy against a particular disease, which could be say COVID or cancer or HIV or something else. However, in homeopathy, medicines are not prescribed on the basis of the disease, but they are prescribed on the basis of certain totality, and that totality is matched with the help of a very peculiar method used in homeopathy called drug proving. So essentially, in order to introduce any new homeopathic drug, even as per the Homeopathy Pharmacopoeia of India, that is HPI, the regulations say that a good quality drug proving is required, and with this drug proving, if you are able to also show certain efficacy, then based on that, a new drug approval could be done. So homeopathy new drug discovery requires a modified version of NDCTR. It requires a very specific, well-defined guidelines which should be specific to and which should be in tune with the homeopathic philosophy and the homeopathic science. And because of the lack of these guidelines as on today, or of lack of well-defined guidelines, the area of new drug discovery in homeopathy is not evolving somehow. And I must say this from my personal experience, that for last so many years I've been working extremely hard to bring and introduce and also to modernize some of the old nozoles that are existing in the homeopathic field for almost 140 years. Now is the time that we need to redo them. For all this, we require a proper policy in place, especially for biological materials as well as for the non-biological materials. So if this is set by the Ministry of Ayush with the help of CDSCO, then we open up a new avenue into developing new drugs which could help millions of people in the world. And fortunately and incidentally, India has this potential of taking a leadership role under the guidance of the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, who has been working very favorably for the Ayush systems of medicine, including homeopathy. So it is high time that the regulators, the policy makers, people sitting in New Delhi and other places, they pay serious attention to the need for new drug regulations, keeping in mind to make it more friendly and more encouraging and more supportive to the growth of homeopathy new drug discovery. So I believe through this forum, I convey this message to all the stakeholders in the space, and we hope that this development happens, these supportive measures are taken place, so that there are so many medicines which are waiting in the pipeline, for which we have already done significant research in last 15 years. They could be brought to the profession, and this could be in the form of a gift of new homeopathy drugs from India to the world. So with these words, I will conclude my talk. Thank you so much for listening to me.